Hey everyone, hope you are doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, a new video, imagine that. I always feel like I have to preface these videos by apologizing first for how long it takes me to getting around to a new one. I guess I just have to have the inspiration hit me. And for today's video, what really sparked it was a comment recently from a subscriber saying that they wish that I would do more videos about the classics. So I thought for today's I would go through a list of classic fragrances that I really feel like are necessary for any man's collection. And of course, these opinions are going to be my own. You might not agree with them, or you might. Of course, you have the opportunity to leave comments down below to let me know what you think, whether you agree or not. But a lot of these are going to be, of course, fragrances that I have an attachment to for one reason or another. It might be for nostalgic reasons, or just because they are just a fantastic fragrance that has stood the test of time. Really, I mean, when you smell them today, they still smell just as good as masculine, as virile as they ever did. And to me, that is the mark of a truly great fragrance if they are able to stand the test of time like that. 20, 30, or even more years down the line, you're able to pick up that fragrance and it just gives you the same feel as it did the very first time you smelled it. I just think that is a great thing. So that is what I have on the list today. In fact, I have 15 fragrances. I know it's a lot to get through. And then I also have some honorable mentions, ones that I felt like that were worthy of mention, but just didn't make that top 15. So stick around to the end for those. Now, to get us started, I thought I would begin with this one, and it's purely for nostalgic reasons, because it was my very first cologne purchase. Back, when I was younger, that is what we called men's fragrances. They were cologne. We didn't call them fragrances. We certainly didn't call them perfumes. Or anything like that. Of course, to call it a perfume would have been way too feminine. Wouldn't have been manly to call it that. But of course, we've gotten past all of those stereotypes now. But yeah, this was my first cologne, and truly, this is one that it's by a brand that just has kind of fallen off the map. It's still a designer that's out there. They're still producing clothing and things like that. But as far as fragrances, they're really not doing a whole lot of anything anymore. For me to feel that it's so great, it just really doesn't get talked about a whole lot. And what I'm referring to is this here. It is Perry Ellis for men, and they refer to this one as the original. This one is from 1985. There was another version that came out, and there's a lot of confusion with that one. This one is, it is a splash. And I've always kept a bottle of this one because the one that I originally bought was the splash. And I think I probably did that because it was less money. It was cheaper to buy the splash version, so that's what I went with. I mean, I was a teenager. I wasn't making a lot of money back then, so I mean, it was a big deal to go to the cologne counter and to purchase a cologne. Anything that was like above $30. I mean, that was big time. So it wasn't buying a fragrance from a drugstore. But the reason that I still love this one to this day is just because it does have that truly classic manly feel about it. This is an ambery leather fragrance that just has everything in it that makes for a true classic. Everything that was being used, back there in the 80s. And, it has such a great smell to it, and it brings back so many memories for me. For my second selection, I'm going to go to the House of Guerlain, of course. Everyone knows my fondness for this house, and it is Heritage. This one was released in 1992, and it was nosed by Jean-Paul Guerlain himself. Again, a lot of those classic ingredients that we come to expect from fragrances in this era. Big lavender, patchouli, sandalwood, but it also has a lot of hints of citruses and florals and green notes. But this is one that's, just when you smell it, you just get that sense of masculinity, but it's not over the top in that aspect. Because it is very classy, it's very refined and elegant. So it's one that I choose to reach for when I'm going to be a little bit more dressed up, because it just seems to fit those types of occasions. Again, just comes off very, very classy, and definitely one that any guy should have when building his classic collection. And no list of this kind would be complete without this fellow here. This is Koros by Yves Saint Laurent. It's from 1981. It was nosed by Pierre Bourdon. And anyone who's tried this knows that it is a beast of a fragrance. It's not one that is really going to appeal to everyone. I mean, I think you've got to have a certain sense of self, a sense of your own like masculinity to be able to pull this one off. There are a lot of comparisons have been made to, you know, what it smells like. I think always the one that I go back to that's the most comical is that it smells like a urinal cake. I guess it does in, you know, certain respects, but you know, when I smell this one, I really think masterpiece, because of the way that all of the elements in this fragrance comes together and just creates this bombastic, just very virile scent. This one is big on musk, patchouli, aldehydes. It's got a little bit of honey in it, and it definitely does have an animalic edge to it. So a lot of people, you know, might not be able to handle that part of it, but definitely, you know, it deserves to be on a list like this. It is probably one of the most iconic fragrances that came from that era, and it is still just so well loved by many, even though it is one of those fragrances that, you know, it can be quite divisive. You know, either people love it or they hate it. But definitely, I feel personally that it deserves to be on this list of top classics for any man's collection. And in the same vein as Koros, next we have Ted Lapidus Pour Homme. This was another very early purchase of mine. I used to pick this up at JCPenney, I think it was, and both my brother and myself wore this. And it too has a lot of great memories wrapped up in it. But yeah, this one to me is a lot like Koros in the fact that it too is a beast of a fragrance. And I think, you know, if you're not careful, this one can be even more so than Koros, if you can believe that. I remember I gave a presentation one time over Zoom, and I sprayed just a little too much of this on, and you know, nearly choked myself out. I mean, I love the smell, but I mean, even for me, it was way too much, and I'm like, I thought I was going to die of it. This one, where it kind of, you know, veers off in a different direction, scent-wise, is, you know, this one does contain the note of honey too, but it also contains incense, tobacco, pine. But it's got a very interesting top note of pineapple that I think, you know, really does something fantastic here with this composition. And it's still one that, you know, it'll like pop in my mind every once in a while, and I'll have a hankering to wear this one just because of all of those good nostalgic vibes and memories that it brings back. So this one too, I think would, you know, be great in anyone's classic collection. Ted Lapidus Pour Homme. Another fantastic classic from back in the day is this one here, Davidoff's Zeno. Zeno is a woody aromatic. It's got some citruses up top, but it's all about the Brazilian rosewood, the sandalwood, the rose, vanilla, patchouli. It's got this wonderful like creaminess to it, especially the more that it dries down. And it's one of the few scents that I have that are really in that classic category that I feel like is just a very soothing, comforting scent. I mean, it starts out a little strong, but the way that it progresses and it dries down, it just becomes this very comforting, very soothing fragrance. So it's one that I really love. This one was from 1986, and it's probably one that I will never not have in my collection. Definitely belongs on this list of top classic fragrances for men. Next, we go to the house of Cartier. Next to Guerlain, it's probably one of my favorite classic houses, and it is Santos Concentré. This is from 1982, and it is a bold, rather sexy, spicy, woody, aromatic fragrance. This has notes of chili pepper, sandalwood, lavender, geranium, patchouli, and just in the spicy category, especially spicy aromatic, you just can't get any better than this. Again, Cartier makes some great fragrances, especially for men, and they just really outdid themselves with this particular one here. There was a couple more that I could have included from the house of Cartier, but I think for me, this one is just tops. I'm going to mention another one in my honorable mentions list at the very end, but yeah, Santos, especially the concentrate version for me, is one that should not be overlooked in your collection. And speaking of spicy, let's not overlook this little gem here from 1995. This is Opium Pour Homme. This, of course, was the masculine counterpart to the original Opium from 1977, but it was supposed to be in that same spicy realm, and most certainly it is. This one features notes of black currant, star anise, pepper, vanilla. It's got, balsamic notes and also some woody notes like cedar as well. But wonderful, wonderful fragrance. Man, and for some reason, there's just certain fragrances that, even though they smell like great on skin, they just seem to smell even better in the air, and this definitely qualifies as one of them. Opium Pour Homme, great, great fragrance. And another staple that should be in any guy's classic collection would definitely be this one. This is the epitome of a classic. It goes all the way back to 1934. Another that has everything but the kitchen sink in it. It's got your citruses, it's got florals, it's got a big leather note in it, but just a wonderful fragrance that, I don't know, I don't feel like it gets the love that it deserves anymore. In fact, in looking around, I don't see it popping up on a lot of lists anymore. Actually, what really reignited my interest in it was seeing a video a while back by a female reviewer who was talking about how much she loved it and how much especially she loved it on a man. And, so it caused me to go out and try to track down an older bottle. My bottle here, unfortunately, the cap is busted a little bit, so it's not in the greatest shape. It still smells great, and I still love it. And again, it should be a staple in any man's classic collection. Another great big leather, another huge classic would have to be Kenisa 10. This was kind of like Dunhill. It's got quite a pedigree to it. This one came from sometime in the 20s. If you care to check it out, I've done a whole video about this particular fragrance. This, in my opinion, is perhaps one of the ultimate leather fragrances for men. I think this one was probably the inspiration for a lot of the leather fragrances that we have now, including the one that I featured at the very beginning of this video, which was Perry Ellis, the original. But yeah, big leather. It has a little bit of an animalic tone to it. And, just oak moss, plenty of oak moss in this, which is great. A little bit of cinnamon. But this, to me, you always have a reference fragrance in your collection by which you measure every other fragrance of that profile that comes along. And for me, definitely Kenisa 10 would be the measuring stick for any leather fragrance that I smell. I just automatically do comparisons to this one because I think it is the greatest leather fragrance ever to be produced. And again, for it to have been around for so long, they are still producing this. They've had flankers of it. That says a whole lot. So Knisa 10, get your nose on this, especially if you love leather fragrances. This one should definitely be in your collection. And probably one of the most beloved men's fragrances is Dior's Eau Sauvage. This one goes all the way back to 1966, so it too has been around for a while, but we still love this one because it is the ultimate warm weather scent. It is the ultimate in citrus aromatics. It's got lemon, bergamot. It's got a lot of herbal notes in it, florals, of course, oak moss, vetiver, musk. But it's true perfection in a bottle. When you smell this, you just immediately get that feeling of being, fresh out of the shower. You're freshly shaven, and it's very clean, very masculine, and a lot of us have also discovered the parfum version as well. So what this is for the warmer months, this is for the cooler months. This one really cuts through the cold weather. You get the same DNA basically, but for just two very different times of the year. So for me, it's necessary to have both versions. Maybe you feel differently about it, but nonetheless, if you have not gotten your nose on this one, please do yourself a favor and try it out. It is still available, and of course, it's a little bit harder now to find the parfum for a great price, but there are some out there. I did find this one at a decent price. So yeah, get your nose on Eau Sauvage by Christian Dior. Another that I love from the 80s is Francesco Smalto's Pour Homme. Another very early purchase of mine. It seems like my brother and I were like always purchasing the same fragrances, or at least we were sharing them. This is another one that we shared for quite a few years, and then I kind of lost track of it, I guess, as I was discovering other fragrances, and rediscovered this one like a few years back, and tracked down a bottle, and out of all of them in my collection, I feel like this I really need. I was able to find the smaller bottle, but I'm on the hunt for a larger backup, because this is another that will just never, from now on, leave my collection. I will never be without it, no matter how, or no matter what I have to do. I'm going to have a bottle of this. Yeah, this one was from 1987. It is a lavender leather oak moss, just beauty. But I think what I really love about this one is those the herbal nuances to it, like the tarragon. It's such an interesting, elegant, refined type of scent. Like Heritage by Guerlain, I tend to wear this one too when I'm a little bit more dressed up, especially with a suit, because to me, it just goes hand in hand with that type of setting. Where you are dressed up for like a special event. But yeah, Francesco Smalto's Pour Homme, definitely a must for any classic collection for men. But let's hop over to the house of Chanel. We haven't done a Chanel yet. This is the infamous Antaeus. From 1981, this was created by Jacques Bolget. Another bold, in-your-face, leather type of scent. There's not leather listed in the notes, but definitely it does have that leather feel to it. A lot of oak moss. We've got some rose, myrrh, some other florals, patchouli, but there's also some castoreum in this as well, so it does have a little bit of that animalic quality to it, but very masculine, very virile, again, very bold statement maker, and I've always loved this black, squarish, elongated bottle here. I think it's very fitting for this scent. I think just has exactly the right look to it, the right presentation to kind of give you an idea of what's inside. I'll put it that way. But yeah, another great one. Definitely a must for your classic collection. So I said that there would be another Guerlain on this list. You probably already guessed what it is by this point. It has to be Habit Rouge from 1965, also known by the great Jean-Paul Guerlain. Talk about a true benchmark fragrance for men. I consider this to be also a reference in my collection, a true measuring stick by which I compare all other great perfumes, because to me, Guerlain has always set the standard. And, I think they really broke the mold when they created Habit Rouge. I mean, they had already done Shalimar by this point. I kind of felt like this should have been, or really was the masculine counterpart to Shalimar. Because you have a lot of the same ingredients there, but you do have a little bit more of a masculine twist. But still, at the same time, I feel like this is a very unisex fragrance. I think it could be equally worn by man or woman. In fact, my wife loves this one. She reaches for this one quite a bit. But yeah, the lemon, the rose, the leather in this, the vanilla, it's the perfect combination. The way that all of these notes come together and are blended is it's just top notch, top notch. So I mean, again, it's hard to believe that most people would not have smelled Habit Rouge by this point. But on the off chance that you have not, please do yourself a favor, check this one out. It is not to be missed, and it should rightfully be in any man's classic collection. The next selection, we're going to move back over to the House of Dior. I would consider this to be the dark horse in this list. Many may question why I've chosen to include it, but I think the reason is that it's just, especially for when it was released, it was so different, so unique, and it just veered so far away from what everybody else was doing at that particular time. But what I'm talking about is Dior's Fahrenheit. Yeah, when I smelled this one for the first time, what really struck me was that it was so unusual, and I just had a hard time processing what I was smelling. I couldn't wrap my head around, what it was and what fascinated and attracted me about this particular perfume. I just knew that I liked it and that I had to have it. And I feel like what they were able to do with leather and violet leaf here was just nothing short of amazing. And this too continues to be one that is much loved. Again, I feel like that some people would still question why I have it on this list. I mean, maybe I'm way off base with that. Maybe no one will question it at all. But I think as far as uniqueness is concerned, I think to this day, this one is still like one of the most unique designer fragrances that has ever been created. And it gets compared a lot to, a lot of people say that it has a gasoline petrol type smell, and it does to a certain extent. But, taking that and making it into something that we want to spray on our skin and actually wear, to me, that's just phenomenal. And so that's why this one made the list. And, again, it should be in every man's classic collection. So to round out the top 15, this might be another that is questioned a little bit. Because I know a lot of people aren't going to feel about this fragrance the same way that I do. It holds such special memories for me. I really consider it to be like a touchstone for those like later teenage years, hanging out with friends, summers, just good times in general. I have a lot of good memories wrapped up with this particular fragrance, and it is Calvin Klein's Eternity. A crisp, refreshing, citrus aromatic, just chock full of lavender, sandalwood. I think the touches that I love the most about this particular fragrance is the addition of like some of the herbal qualities, like the sage and the basil. I feel like they do something just so fantastic to this composition. And I really feel like that when Calvin Klein came out with this fragrance, they really did something special. And even though I feel like a lot of people would question this selection, I think there are probably a lot of people out there too that have a special fondness for this particular fragrance. Yeah, and to me, it's just it goes beyond nostalgia, really. When I spray this one on now, I mean, I can't believe that it still smells as great and as relevant as it ever was. And I don't know, it will always have a place in my collection. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it belongs in any great men's classic collection as well. That is my 15 top choices. We're going to go now into some other ones that I felt like were really great scents, but they were like missing something that just couldn't quite push them into the top 15. So let's go ahead and jump into those. Lauder for Men by Estee Lauder from 1985. Jazz by Yves Saint Laurent from 1988. Gucci Pour Homme from 1976. Pour Monsieur from 1989. And this is the concentrate version. Cartier Declaration from 1998. Versace L'Homme from 1984. And finally, Lagerfeld Photo from 1990. Well, that'll do it for this video. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to give it a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you agree with these selections or what would you have included in your list of top classic fragrances for a man's collection. Until the next one, please take care. Behave yourselves. We'll see you soon.